At what point do you think we're good enough?
I think we're always good enough. I lived my life feeling not good enough for so long. And if you can recognize whatever you think your weaknesses are, whatever you think those bad things are, those can be your biggest powers. And we have this self-judgment that gets in the way. And if we can understand ourselves and just know how to work with it, we are who we are. And that's absolutely enough.
What do you mean by our worst things can be our greatest power? What does that mean?
So how many people have depression or I have anxiety, mental illness? We're taught, oh, I'm sorry, that as if it's a bad thing. For years, I was trying to fix my anxiety, right? And that just made it worse. And the moment I started to embrace it and share it and own it and live with it and accept it as a part of me, it didn't have as much power. I still live with anxiety, but it doesn't control me that way anymore. So there are people, whether it's having a mole that you're embarrassed about or having a mental illness or a chronic illness, we all have these things that we think are negative. And I think that is in some way a blessing and a gift. We just have to figure it out.
Yes. There is always it's crazy. Sometimes I live in South Florida, and there's some beautiful people in South Florida. Don't come down here if you have low self-esteem.
Right.
It's but I talk to some of these people sometimes that are just, in my eyes, just so pretty. And they're not happy with themselves. Still, there's always something or a few things that they're dissatisfied with, and stuff that you would never even guess. They say it, and then I'm like, what? Not even an issue. But it really helps, having those conversations really help me recognize oh, maybe the things that I'm self-conscious about, also nobody's really noticing, so it really gives a different dimension to that.
Yeah, I absolutely think most of us are our biggest critics. There might be some people out there that just really think highly of themselves and don't, but most of us have that inner voice. I'm too short, too tall. There's never a good way. And I mentioned that in the beginning with healing. People judged my taking time off and healing through nature and doing it that way. And my close friend did the opposite. She was out. She was on the go. She was keeping herself busy. She couldn't be in slowness or silence. Wow. That was and she had just as much judgment. Wow. So the world will always find something to say you're doing too much or too little of this. And that's why we have to say, you know what? Works for me. I could not have done it her way, and she couldn't have done it my way at all.
Yeah. So interesting. Thank you.